welcome to Be an Artist. I'm here with Aneesa today. She's a photographer and she just became a fellow at the British Institute for Photography. Hi, Aneesa.
Hi, Petra. Nice to see you.
It's nice to see you too. It's been a while.
I
Um,
know.
Last time I saw you, you were just working on becoming a fellow. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you achieved becoming a fellow at the Institute for British Professional Photography?
Yeah, so it was actually I was going for an associate, which was a different level. It's like the level in between, and it's unusual that you get upgraded to the fellowship. But the judges felt that the work was strong, like and it had meaning and it was powerful. And I think with a fellowship, you have to produce a project which is very creative. It may have or may not have social meaning, and it has a message as well, and but something that it can also be taken further, like it's worthy of the media or it's worthy to be exhibited. And so it has to, it doesn't just stop at a fellowship, it has to go somewhere beyond that. So at the moment I gave myself a week off, enjoyed it, celebrated, told everyone, and now it's the next stages, which is what to do now. And yeah, I do want to take it further, but not just the project that I've done. I've got a lot of ideas, and my head's always ticking over with lots of ideas of what next to do that's creative. I sort of run away before I even start. But yeah, like this is amazing for the amount of work it takes, and a lot of people can work many years. Some people take like 10 years to get their fellowship, can take a long time. So I'm so happy, and you featured in it, so that was amazing as well.
Congratulations. Um,
Thank you.
Is there like a time frame to the fellowship, or is it forever?
Yeah, so there's a structure. It depends how hard and how solid you're willing to work. For me, having COVID, like COVID came with its ups and downs, but I was given this year and a half of time, which my life doesn't account for, to have time to think, to write, to draw my storyboards, to create. And no one easily has that in photography because we're too busy trying to earn money to live. So this was really, it was a gift. So yeah, like normally you work for your licentiate, which is your professional body standard. So it shows you're operating as a good business, and you've got all your insurances and everything, and your work is of a good level. But then the next jump is associate, which is a big jump, and you have to show you've got brands and you've got a style, and like you have to sort of, it sets you out a bit differently as a photographer. So yeah, then that might take 2 or 3 years to do that from a licentiate level, and then the fellowship is normally a couple of years at least for a project like that. And like I say, some people just do it over time, as and when they can fit it into working as a full-time photographer. But you have to be a professional photographer. You can't be just sort of dipping in and out. Like you kind of have to breathe it, which is what I kind of said about the work that I do. I literally had to live and breathe that project for it to come alive. It was hard. It was hard, but I enjoyed it. Like that's the thing. Like it, while something can be so hard and so difficult, if it's your passion, it, that difficult is worth it, because the end result is what you want anyway. It's what I wanted. And whether, a lot of people said this to me, whether you get the mark you get or not, the, the love and care that I feel that I put behind it was still worthy of something. Like in someone's eyes, like it meant a lot to me to create a project like that, because I won't create some, you need a drive or you need a benchmark or something, and I think that's what it gave me. So it was a hard experience, but yeah, a few years normally a few years. It could take longer. Some people go in and they're unsuccessful with their qualification, which is horrifying, because and I saw people have to go through that process where they didn't get the mark they wanted, and it was heartbreaking. So it's over a 2-day experience, and yeah, my heart broke for a few people. So it's like it's tough. It's tough, really tough.
Yeah, especially because when it takes so long, like your whole focus goes into this one thing over like 2 years or whatever, how long it takes, and then if you don't come out at the other end, it must be really like demoralizing, I guess.
Well, that's just it, right? So imagine if I did all this work. I gave up so much. I sacrificed so much to put forth this project that I truly believed in. Then I don't. It's subjective. So as you know, art is subjective, and it depends on who is judging your work. There's the technical, and that's black and white, and so you'll get marked on that technically. But if it doesn't make sense from a subjective artistic point of view, that might not work to your favor, and then you would be like, for me, I think I would have been crushed, absolutely crushed. So whilst everyone might say you'll be okay, you'll pick yourself up and you'll go again, I don't think I would have. I think it would have absolutely crushed me, because it took so much out of me to do it that yeah, I don't know if I could have done it again easily.
Mhm. Do you think you said you worked about 1.5 years on the pictures that you submitted? Do you think your work changed during those 1.5 years? Because it's quite a long time frame where you work on details.
100%. So I look at the first. So I had different mentors and different photographers that I would bounce ideas off and stuff. So initially, I wanted to do like reportage kind of work and follow the fighters, their journeys, training in the ring, all of that. And then it took different turns. And then I realised if I'm shooting outdoors compared to shooting indoors, the how I shoot is different and the light I use is different, and so then the processing is different. So I went from being too led by Instagram, and so you see the Instagram, so many artists and photographers on Instagram, and so I'd see what they're doing, and then I think I was trying to initially replica some photographers that I liked, and that then wasn't my style because I was forcing something that wasn't me. And then what I did was strip everything back. I stopped editing and I just focused just on the light. And then once I felt so confident that everyone I shot, everything changed. When I felt so confident about the light, I was barely editing, just like little details. And I made a point of it where I kept the women looking as they are. Like I didn't over edit anything. If they had spots that weren't part of their face, then yes, I'll remove them. But they're how they are, their raw, true selves, which means a lot to me. That all stayed, and so my editing process became minimal at the end, just the black and white conversions and a few tweaks. So, and that's quite a hard thing to do. So yeah, as a photographer, my images changed dramatically, and I'd say it was only at the last juncture where it was those images that I was they're the ones I was choosing for the project.
Mm-hmm. Because I think black and white is not as easy as people think. Because people think, on Instagram you can put a black and white filter, but not every color. Like if you want to do fine arts photography, I guess you're gonna focus a little more if your black and white conversion of all the colors that are in the picture actually convert to the degree of gray that you want it to be, rather than like just putting a filter on.
It's really like you notice things. So my eye sees things. So a flat image, if you have no contrasting shadows, even if so it's color and you convert that to a black and white, it's still flat. So you even with the black and white, you would have to make it so punchy and add so much grain and sharpen it so that it pops out at you to make it come alive. Whereas if you've used nice shadows, the need for that becomes minimal because you're so focused on what the light has done to the subject, which is far more beautiful. And then the conversion is just a soft conversion. You don't need to do an awful lot. So I find, yeah, like I learned that, and then the hotspots. So I'm sure I might have mentioned it to you, but like you might find really bright white bits and all the details completely blown out, and then you've got dark shadows where it's gone so dark it's just a black splodge. Things like that in black and white, you will really see it. Like a detailed eye will see it. And if we're going for competition or like qualifications and awards and stuff, then these are details as a photographer you kind of if you're producing to a high level, you can't really have those kind of slips. So that this process taught me that was like really, really sort of quite useful. Don't get me wrong, I do like really black and white, depthy, dark images, and I will shoot that way. But if you're doing it technically correct, then yeah, there's like other things there.
Do you think you develop this kind of eye that you can look at something and already know if it works in black and white or not?
Think so. Like I don't want to like assume that I do, but for my work, yes. I won't say that for someone else's work. I'm no critic, but for my work, if I shot something, and like even on my iPhone, if I looked at something on my phone, I will know straight away if it will look horrific if I changed it. But they say sometimes people try and save images by turning them black and white. So if it's got a lot of colours and so much going on and no balanced tones, then sometimes people move things to black and white. But I think when you're creating fine art imagery, you must have the transition of the colours and the balance that needs to work in colour as well as black and white, I think. So yeah, I think my eyes definitely got sharper. Um, yeah, and I think that's what the good thing is, right? Like you go through a process like this, and it does just make you a better artist in whatever it is that you're producing.
Hmm.
But yeah.
Nice. Yeah, well, before I met you, I didn't know there was such a thing as fine arts photography.
Oh really? Did you
Oh, I
not?
didn't know. I was like, yeah, photography. I never like. I even had been to exhibitions of like photography, but I never realized that the actual photography was the art, because a lot of times when I've been to exhibitions like that, it was about, social rights, or so the reason for the pictures was like more dominant for me. So I never realized there was like a fine arts society like for photography or anything like that until I met you.
Oh wow, no. Well, so in like all different institutions, they'll cover everything. That's like you say, they'll have the journalism, they'll have the wedding category, they'll have a sport category, and they'll have all different types of categories, and they'll have the fine art one as well. Some of my work borders different categories.
Mhm.
So when there's competitions, I don't know where to put it. But for me, I do like to think of myself as fine art because just because of the way I like the subjects, and that is in line with Renaissance style lighting. So that gives it that fine art effect. Some photographers then put, I don't do this, but I know how to, and I would if a client wanted me to. But you can put like a filter. So it might be you take a photograph of some wrapped up paper, and then you reduce the opacity and you put that over the image, and it gives this old vintage kind of look.
Ah.
um so and then that's called fine art, but that's, I would say that's more of a commercial fine art. What I want to produce is something that you would see in a gallery. I like those kind of images. So I've seen so many photographers, not so many photographers who do, they shoot, but you're looking at the work and thinking that could be a painting, right? Like that could be a painting. And I think that's where I always wanted to sit in that category. So to just have the skills to do it. Obviously, all my clients don't want that necessarily, but so long as I know I can do it, that's a nice feeling, because I still see myself as an artist before everything else.
Yeah. And I guess you always have to adapt, like if you do a shoot, like a commercial shoot where people pay to like shoot like one specific things, or doing your own project where you are the, creative director essentially.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah. So your subject was you photographed fighters, boxers, and I think did you have some kickboxing, MMA?
No, a lot of most of the panel were Muay Thai, and there were some boxers and other MMA sports in between, but mostly Muay Thai.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, like it's a lot of them were clients, and then some were not. So I had a balance of in between. But the clients, they obviously paid for their shoots to whatever they wanted to do. But when I told them about the project, they were pretty keen to be involved too, which was awesome to have them involved. And it felt really good because it was like embracing my whole community and it had everyone involved. And I think that's the thing I'm proud of most, is that I got this to work somehow, with us all feeling some kind of reward out of it. We all got something from it. So like everyone got nice pictures for example, but I got to also put um people from a different type of community on the map. So we like the photography industry, it's well known, it's not as diverse as it could be, and that's in all areas. Like every area of diversity, it's not as diverse as it could be, and there's a uh, there's a lot that needs to happen for different types of creatives to enter that world. And I guess so, someone just an ordinary girl from South London being able to achieve something like this, it just sets a precedent. So if I then do a talk in a school, I can say to some young teenagers, well, look, if I could do it,
Yeah.
why are you not aspiring to this as well? Like, we think we can't do something, but if you want it, you can make it happen. And I
Mm.
kind of, yeah, I didn't have that role model, so maybe they might see that in some of the work. If they see my work somewhere, they might think, well, she did it, and that would be a good thing. If it just inspires more young people to get up and do the same thing that I've just done, I'd love that.
And representation matters, doesn't it? It's like if you tell them they can do it, it's a different thing than you doing it and they seeing you stand there.
100%. Like some of the people in the project spoke about it. It's like you cannot be what you do not see. It sounds sad, but unfortunately it is true. Like if there's nobody that you can identify with, and I'll break it down as something as simple as maybe the way you speak. If you're if you're someone that doesn't feel, or who've had an experience where you didn't quite feel like you fitted in, and then you're around lots and lots of people who you then feel that feeling again, you kind of just go inwards and think, oh, I don't belong in a place like this, and maybe my route is somewhere else, and then you might deviate from what it is that you truly want. But these changes are happening, and good things. I see good things ahead, and I guess that was part of the message between for my panel, is that we need to stop looking at the visual of what we all are. We're it's the humanity. We're all the same. So let's treat each other the same as well. That was really important, because it has all races, all sizes, all backgrounds in that
Yeah.
panel. But which was my key messaging. Um, but also it was removing the color and just creating a simple tone amongst them all that felt very unifying and very together, and that's what I want to see going forward.
Mhm.
Still got work to do there, but like small steps.
I just realized Muhammad Ali is watching.
What's that?
I just realized Muhammad
Oh,
Ali is watching.
amazing. I've got a picture actually upstairs. I should have brought it down. I've got like a colourful one of Muhammad Ali, because yeah, like he was amazing to me. Proper inspiration. There's a lot in that time, in that generation, that he did to sort of make his changes. He wasn't just a boxer, he was an activist. We talked about this before, right? About we try and express, like, we're not crazed activists, but we try and express political messages through the way we communicate our art. I think that's so important. And if we have any kind of platform at all, and we're able to express it through our art, and people are watching, and the message is positive, then surely that's a good thing. I'm very comfortable sharing messages that are positive,
Mhm.
that will help social change. As he did, I think he did that. I
Yeah,
think,
definitely.
yeah,
Yeah,
real empowering, and did a lot for all communities, I think.
yeah. I mean, a lot of people don't know that, but boxing was actually one of the first integrated sports, based on basically them making a lot of money in the bets of like people betting, is the white guy gonna win or the black guy? So it wasn't really an honorable integration. But I think because it was an integrated sports, people still saw but you tell us we have to be separate, but now you're making money of the two of us together on like this small space, you know? And I think just by young boys back then seeing this, because girls didn't box back then yet, um,
No.
but I think it changed their mindset. It's changed like, oh, I can actually do that. I can achieve something higher than what this segregationist environment is telling us, like, you know. So I think it's interesting that you said that you really wanted to show the diversity, um, and you wanted to show the humanity within this diversity, and you chose fighting because I think that's like a nice historical connection there as well.
Yeah, 100%. I really believe in it. I did like martial arts from quite small, so it was something that I was used to. And my observations from being small is where we were in a community where we didn't actually fit in, and my mother was of a Windrush generation, so she was one of the first ones into the country, and so it was hard. It was hard, and you were afraid of what might get said to you, and what might get done to you. And so we got put into martial arts pretty young. And but what I did notice was exactly that, and that always stayed with me. It was everyone from all different backgrounds, and everyone had their own sort of backstory, trauma, loss, something. There was something going on for everyone. And if you look past the color and look past just that one thing, actually look past the color, everyone was pretty much the same, and that never left me. Even when yeah, like as I got older, I went back into, I dip in and out of it as fitness type thing, not professionally. But my observations have always been the same. It brought people together in a positive way. It connected people because sport does that. I think a lot of sports bring people together. Um, but there's something quite special about this particular sport for me, and I enjoy it for that reason. And I think it has, like you say, it's unfortunate, like when you have two people in the ring and it becomes a race thing, the white guy against the black guy. That is heartbreaking, and it still goes on today.
Mhm.
So, but then when you're in a ring or in a training gym and you're seeing everybody of all different types, that's really the reality of it in a lot of places. Well, where I live anyway, it's how it is. It's a mixture. But but again, that's a media thing, I think, where
Yeah.
they force us to be against each other, divide and conquer, all the rest of it. I just think it's pushed on us, and it's not the reality.
Yeah, I think that's really extreme in the media because they have to like sell tickets. So I think they, yeah.
Right.
I mean, they wouldn't be able to hug like publicly, right? The opponents. Um,
No, it's to make it more exciting. I think they do this, and then what they do in the same way they do of many things, they feed off the tension, and so they might actually just hate each other with good reason. He might have said your mum something, or like he might have said something. It's not because he's black or it's not because he's white that they've done it. It's just like that. But then the media might grab onto the race thing and take that to a next level, which isn't right.
yeah, no,
Um,
no.
no, because I see it. I see it in a lot of things. And yeah, it's just really disappointing. But the thing is, I think a lot of us are educated enough to know that's not reality. And we're
Yeah.
moving away from that and trying to move away from that. So I think that's a good thing.
I think it's like when I started boxing, I didn't know boxing was only Olympic sport for women since 2012, I think.
Is
Which,
that all?
yeah,
Wow. I didn't know the
I think
date. No.
like I never thought that somebody else might think that I wouldn't be able to box. But then you have like all these comments of like, oh yeah, but what about your pretty face? And I'm like, what about your pretty face? But I didn't know that there was because obviously women boxer get paid less and all of that.
Yeah.
But I just never realized that it's been such a short amount of time that it was actually a women Olympic sport and women professional sport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I didn't realize it was that short amount of time either.
I
That's
only found out
really,
like 2 years ago.
that's not long at all. But it's great that we're sort of we've come so far, right? Like we've come so far in all different areas, and yeah. So I guess for me, it's visually showing it. I was real annoyed about some stuff a while ago, and like someone, well, a few people helped me channel it through my art, and I think I am actually that person. And I revert back to my childhood, and I wrote about this when I presented my work. And like the only things I cared about when I was younger were like dancing, my art, and fighting. And so like all three, like they're still now my go-tos when I'm a little bit lost and a little bit unable to communicate with, because I don't, when you're not accustomed to expressing yourself verbally, sometimes it has to be the visual. And so that was my message. It's like, I have no words, I can't speak, I have no words left. And so I thought this is a nice way of speaking, and it's a nice statement, and it's a positive statement, and it's like all encompassing. So that's kind of, yeah, like I just think like it's a shame that the arts got such a hit during COVID as well. So much money has been withdrawn, so much funding has been cut, and that continues. And but it's so necessary for
Yeah.
us as humans to have these things. I think they are important.
It's funny because it's like all these people that go to private schools, and like the politicians, the rich people cutting funding to the arts, yet they have the whole mansions filled with artwork. uh, Private schools have really strong art programs. Actually, it's more like the public schools that suffer, which are the ones who don't really vote for funding cuts.
Well, this is the sad thing, right? Like most in our area, for example, there isn't huge art departments and stuff like that. So even for my kids, we send them on a Saturday to the Brit School,
Mhm.
and they have like a lovely little Saturday club, and they get to do their art that way. Because for me, art is important. I don't want them to miss that or have nothing. Um, it's just not geared up. The curriculum is not geared up for that, and as our job opportunities. So who'd have thought? It needs to be scripted for us a little bit more. I had to muddle my way through to figure out how to make a living, and if I didn't work, so I worked for a homeless charity before. If I didn't work for that charity and understand what business was and learn um, how, like all those little areas that you need to learn in order to set up a business, then actually I wouldn't have had a clue what to do. You kind of need the business to make being an artist work, because there's like processes, and no one really tells you that.
Mhm.
So it was just, I was lucky I fell into the career paths I took.
Mhm.
Led me here, but it was no easy one, not at all. Like yeah, I don't know. And I guess if at school you're not taught how to make a career out of art, then
I
you're
think
not
you're
going
not taught how to be any type of entrepreneur. You're kind of prepared to be an employee, aren't you?
I think so, actually. Yeah, they kind of gear you up for jobs to be an employee. And I guess unless you have role models in your life that are not that, you're not going to learn it necessarily. Yeah, you're right, actually, because I'm trying to think of what I know. And it is like, yeah, it's like, what job do you want to get in order to choose your subjects? And so, yeah, you're probably right, actually.
Because in the end, I feel like at the end of the day, art, you kind of run art, if you want to do it professionally, like a business,
Yeah,
and your product that you give out is your art, but everything behind the scenes is kind of as if you're any other business, you
yeah.
know?
They say for us as photographers, 70 or 80% is business and the rest is shooting. So that's quite
Yeah.
depressing, right? 'Cause all I want to do is shoot. but half the time I'm in front of my computer and I'm doing admin and I'm networking and I'm
Yeah.
having to do so much stuff. But all I really want to do is stand with my clients and photograph them. I don't want to do the rest. And that's why I'm kind of glad that I have learned to not edit or like revert backwards from over processing years ago, because that's what everyone was doing, to not. It means I just churn out my pictures now in a way that I'm proud of, because I'm like not interfering with them. So like I talk about this with other photographers about the authenticity of what you shoot from your camera. Um, if you're having to manipulate every little detail, then sometimes it no longer becomes the picture you once took, and that's what I want to move away from. But yeah, like the business side, it's a lot. It's a lot. Like you're not
Literally
actually.
everybody said that. I mean, as a dancer, I can say the same. It's like I want to dance, but like I sit in front of the computer so much, and like all my visual artists that have been on the podcast said the same. Like just like answering emails 60% of the time.
Yeah, because
And
it's how else do you get seen as well? Like the problem with our jobs, the problem with our jobs is that we have to be seen. Or not us, well, you do definitely, but for me, my work has to be seen. So then all what I'm trying to do is get my pictures seen, and that's just long. It's just really hard and time consuming. But then that's what makes you get the awareness about the work that you're shooting. If it has some kind of meaning and you want that work seen, then it's effort. It's real effort.
do you have any plans to exhibit your photography?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. So it was amazing actually during the judging. I mean, it was so emotional, but there were two really amazing photographers and judges there, and one of them said she's never seen a panel like it in 10 years, and that was just like I was crying my eyes out. But the other guy, he was just like, have you thought about exhibiting? I said yes, in South London, because I wanted to keep it local,
Mhm.
but I don't really know how to go about it because you need to get these pictures up big. I don't have the funding for it or anything, so I don't know how you do that. And he just said that if I contact him, he will try and help me get on the right path. And so we've exchanged a couple of emails, and that's the next step. So yeah, my plan is to gun ho try and get this work exhibited so that I can have a party as well, right? Like I wanna celebrate, and
I definitely gonna come.
yeah, you have to come. You have to come. But yeah, like that would be a great sort of way to celebrate the work, get the message out there, but also like it be another unifying experience because of how diverse my panel is. Can you imagine what that room would look like if it was filled with all the fighters, their family, their friends, and what that would actually look like? It would be so beautiful. It would be so colourful and different, and I'd want music. And yeah, like I would just be high on the vibe of seeing it all come together. Somehow I've got to make it happen.
Yeah, that
It's
would be
not gonna be
amazing.
easy, but that's my hope.
Yeah, but I think you can do it.
Yeah, well, thank you.
I
It
think you
says, but imagine, Petra, about a year ago, I would never dream so big. I
I
would never
know.
dream so big. I would never, ever, ever be so bold to say, oh yeah, I'm going to exhibit, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to have big pictures up on the wall, and people are going to see it. I'd have been like, oh, like, no, maybe who would come? It'd be like that, like so awkward. But now I guess
I
I've had
used
the
to be
foundation.
like that also.
What's that?
I used to be like that also. Because always used to judge myself on thinking that nobody will come. Like it's like, oh, why would I do a show? What if nobody comes? But now I'm like, I'm more thinking about expressing myself, and that helps because I'm like, I'm here to express myself. If you don't want to come, it's your problem.
I need this attitude. So maybe you can give me some coaching on how to how not to be so hard on myself. I think it's that, right? Like if I spend all this money on getting these pictures blown up and the venue and everything, and obviously I want it to be special and I'd want it to be nice. It's almost like organising a big party or a wedding. Like for
Yeah.
me, that's effort. But I've got to fit this in now on top of my day job is figure out how I'm going to do this. But I do want it to happen. I do really want it to happen.
Yeah. And then you can sell like your picture books and sell.
Yeah, yeah. So then
I've
that would
already
be
got it all planned out for you. You just need
yeah.
to.
You've done there before I have. But yeah, that would be the dream, right? Exhibit, have a picture book, and then that'd be my dream. And then I've got so many other ideas of what to do next. So they fed this back to me actually in the judging as well. So the chair of judges, he said to me, F is for freedom, not just the fellowship. And I kind of like that because he's so right. When you do a fellowship, it's with structure, it's with guidelines, it's with tick boxes and a whole load of other criteria. Now I can shoot for me. Now I can shoot what I wanted to shoot all along. And I have so many stories, not just of me, but of other people. And so like even there's just so much. Like there's even like a bit of self-portrait that comes out through my work that's very subtle that only some people would notice. Yeah, so now that would kickstart the next chapter of my life. But like, yeah, I mean, it's amazing what can happen when we talked about this as well, when you shut out anything that's messing with your head or saying no, you can't do that, that's not within your reach, you should just be happy that you're earning a bit of money or doing this. And no, I want the big things. Like, I want more.
I think for me that was a good thing about the lockdown, that I was at home working on my own stuff,
Yeah,
and I didn't have people commenting on my own stuff around me all the time, because I feel like people always like to comment, and I guess they mean it good
yeah,
because they think they're giving you advice, but like it's not helpful most of the time because you're trying to express content of your soul and they're commenting on it. It's not the right thing. Whereas during the pandemic, I was just, editing little short films or like doing my own thing, like all in peace. And yeah, it was quite relaxing
like
actually.
they're commenting on your soul. That's exactly what they're doing. So imagine for me, you've got all the different genres of photography. Not every photographer is going to get you. And so you might shoot a very different way to how I shoot. I
Yeah.
kind of in your comments if you're going to make me feel like I'm not shooting right. So
Yeah.
and if it's to help me grow and it's like coming from a place of love, but if it's coming from a place of I know more than you, I don't want it then. Just because like you say, lockdown was really good. We're stuck with ourselves, and maybe that's a thing. Some artists just need that time alone,
Yeah.
and that's part of why we can create when we're left alone. But then also, I think people are my muse, so I feed off someone's tragedy. I will feed off that, and
Mhm.
it will become something that I want to shoot. Not to like that sounds wrong. Not in a way that is about them necessarily, but it comes out through something else I might shoot. So someone might tell me a story about them, but I shoot something else, but I've got them in mind. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, not to make it like, because I see that a lot in art as well, where uh, people photograph things which for me sit uncomfortably, like it's taking taking out their misfortune is become something else, and I don't feel comfortable with that like it's a balance, it's a balance of how you express telling someone that there's a problem here in society, there's a problem that we need to address, to then taking advantage of someone's situation to win something. I don't agree with that. So for me there's a real balance. But COVID was great. Like it shouldn't have been great, it wasn't great, but like it was good, like headspace, I think.
Yeah. I think COVID wasn't great, but the fact that we were able to just focus was
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
If
that's
we
what I
would have had
mean.
that opportunity without the COVID, we would have taken it too, right?
Well, I think I definitely wouldn't have got this without COVID. I couldn't have that time.
Mm.
But like I say, yeah, it wasn't a happy time either. Like um, emotionally, like it wasn't a happy time, but it was a good time in order for me to turn it into something positive, because
Mm.
I was able to do that just by ticking along in my little bubble. So that's what the positive was. My bubble was positive of me just thinking, okay, well, I've got to do something, and I've still got to earn, and it's like it just came together, I
Mm.
guess. So yeah.
Um, how did you first start photography?
Ooh. Um, I was self-taught. So I did art when I was younger, and I loved that. And I was hoping to do an art degree or history of art, but I didn't because there just was no money, and so everyone said an artist cannot make money, so do not do art. So I was like, okay, but I was very academic as well, so it just didn't make sense that I do it, but it wasn't my choice really in that way. Like I would have loved to have done an art degree. I would have loved that. I think I would have thrived. But I still loved history. So I did a history and politics degree. So what actually has happened is that with my social documentary work, all the history that I learned and read and understood has come out through the way I shoot. And then I worked in a homeless charity for 13 years and like from ground, like from yeah, sort of like ground level through to management. And that helped me really understand human beings, human nature. Like we did training on conflict resolution, and that helped me understand the human body. So when we're talking, words are coming out, but I'm not always looking at the words. I'm looking at the eyes, I'm looking at the posture, I'm looking at how they're interacting with me. And I think that's has fed into how I work. So all my experiences fed in. And then when I fell pregnant, like 10, 12 years ago, I started just taking photographs of, wanted to capture his life and stuff. And then I thought, I'm actually not that bad at this. Like, and then I was able to use my knowledge of color and composition and everything. And I just thought, out of the blue, one day, I just said, I'm going to be a photographer. And I don't know how this is going to happen, but I'm going to be a photographer because it uses all my arty skills, and I can do it. And I know. And then I think someone had showed me their nursery pictures for their kids, and I was like, I could do better than that. I could do that and get paid. I was like, how much did you pay for that? I was like, I could do that. And so, and then I just did, and off I went. Started doing evening classes, camera clubs, taught myself Photoshop. Was beat up every single night, just teaching myself stuff, and then it grew, and I just didn't stop. Once I started getting validation from people saying this is really good, and once people started paying me money, well, I was like, well, this can work, right? This can work. And then it just, yeah. So 10 years full time, no, 10 years as a registered, 10 or 12 years as a registered photographer with some of my companies, been going for that amount of time, and 6 years full time, I think. So
Wow.
it's been, what seems short probably isn't as short because I needed those other experiences to feed through into my current way of working. You would so if you look at it this way, the masters in art and photography would combine a lot of history in the work, the history of photographers of art and social awareness, and that feeds into the current photography. So though I'd already done that part of the work and I was already thinking that way. It takes some people a long time to sort of think differently about communities and societies. So I'd already done that part. So it was just applying the art, learning the technical, and then having it put all together, which, yeah, so it seemed quite short, right, when you say it out loud. But I don't think it was a work in progress. I only ever wanted to do this.
But that's a really good thing to hear, because I think people shouldn't be afraid of start pursuing their dream at a later age. No, like people think if you don't start when you're 10 years old, you can't do it anymore. You can't be an artist. But there's so many different paths to it, and especially photography, you document the time. So I think it's really good to be a historian and to know politics, because that way you can really show what is happening, and you can raise awareness. And
Yeah. Your eyes become very different. So like I did a talk at a university, and the student did her dissertation on Black Lives Matter, and we had an interview similar to like this, and we talked about the images that I took. And so from the eyes of a citizen journalist, as opposed to a paid media journalist who has an objective and a set of criteria that they have to work to, my eyes aren't that. So my images look very different to what was reported on 2 of the days in particular, ones outside Downing Street and another one of the days. My images are very multicultural. They got people playing music, dancing in the street. It was a very different set of images that was shown to what the media was putting out, and it's difference of eyes. And so, like you say, the history and the politics fed through that. And as a historian, you have to see both sides. So
Yeah.
even with the dictator, you have to try and see where that person was coming from. Why did they become the way they were? What trauma and damage did they have to make them the way they were? Equally, you need to be able to empathize and understand what it's like for the victim, but you've got these two very opposing sides. And what a degree like that does is really help you understand that whatever you photograph, you're still going to have those two opposing sides. And that is really something I never thought about enough in photography until I started doing more of the demonstrations.
Mhm.
Um, and that comes out through my work. So there's always balance. If I photograph someone who's demonstrating for a cause, I will photograph another person like doing the opposite. So I try and get the balance. But and it doesn't, my politics, sometimes it comes through, I won't lie, and then sometimes it won't. I'll try and be impartial, but that's my personal work,
Mhm.
and I'm not getting paid for that particular bit of work. So that's just my expression, in the same way that everyone has their freedom to express as well. So but
Yeah.
yeah, it really, really is. Like you say, I think that's something that I really hope other young people learn from. If they choose the wrong degree, if they choose the wrong course, and they end up having to do a job that they really hate, it's not impossible to change paths. Like hours and hours of work, yes, but once you get there, that's your salvation. You feel much more complete as a human.
Mhm. Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah.
Do you have any like photographers that are like your go-to photographers to, to look at? I don't know. Do you have any like favorite photographers that you attend exhibitions of, or like you really follow them?
So do you know, there's no one in particular. I sort of like I follow a lot of photography pages and stuff, and whoever grabs my attention. So currently, whoever grabs my attention, like if they've got an exhibition going and they've got content that I think is worthy
Mhm.
or interesting, I will go. There are old time photographers that I really like and have like definitely I never even noticed had links to my work, but other photographers have said, "Have you not noticed that's similar to how you shoot?" And I'm like, "Oh!" And then I read about them. I'm like, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah." That's totally an influence. And but it was like the other way around. I found out about them afterwards, and then I read into them more and understood more. But yeah, like it's like with everything. I think I've got this weird way of looking at life. I'm not in awe of anyone. I don't sort of put anyone overtly on a pedestal, but I do think lots of people have lots of things to contribute. And so they might not even be necessarily photographers, the people that I'm drawn to, and that I will get things that inspire me elsewhere. So yeah, it's kind of like it's if someone like connects with me in my heart, I think then I screenshot them and I've got a separate Instagram mood board, and I screenshot them so I don't forget their name, because they're normally people that are unheard of. And
Mhm.
then I keep them aside, and then I go back to their work and check on, see what they're doing. Because I like, it takes a lot for me to feel like they're doing something good, and I want to know more about them. They're the kind of people that I want to follow.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today. I think
That's
it
so
was
kind.
really good. It was so nice to catch up, and we should meet again like next year to see
Yes,
what
we
has
should just
happened.
I might do yeah, maybe I do one for mine as well, like to follow up where you've gone. But definitely when I go on the exhibition path as well, we should do one like like something like to the build up and then afterwards. That'll be quite fun.
Awesome. I'm gonna link all of your socials and website
Thank
in the description box.
you. Thank
You can
you.
Um, and
It's so nice, Petra. Honestly, we should definitely do it again just to catch up because it's been lovely.
yeah, it was really good.
Actually, the first proper conversation I've had following like the qualifications, like because been in such a bubble, and obviously the photographers who were there experienced it with me, and we went through through it, and it was lovely, lovely. But my friends that like my day-to-day friends, they're not photographers or artists, so this has actually been the first kind of conversation I've had with another artist since, so it's been lovely. It's really, really good.
I'm gonna stop the recording.
Okay.